Welcome to Silent Revenge, where storms don't just destroy houses, they expose what was rotting inside them. The hurricane was supposed to hit the coast. That's what the alert said. That's what my sister insisted when she told me not to worry about Dad. But hurricanes don't always follow forecasts, and neither do people. When the storm suddenly shifted direction and weakened, my business conference in Houston ended 2 days early. Flights reopened. Roads cleared. I decided to surprise my father. I hadn't been home in nearly 6 months. 6 months of unanswered calls. 6 months of my sister, Leela, saying, "Dad's resting. He's confused sometimes. It's better if I handle things." I believed her. She sounded calm, responsible, loving. I was wrong. The driveway felt strange when I pulled in. Too quiet. No porch light. No sign of life. Dad never forgot the porch light. I tried my key. It didn't work. That's when I felt it, that cold, crawling instinct in my spine. I knocked. Nothing. I walked around the side of the house and saw the back door. A new lock. Heavy duty. Industrial. Not something my 72-year-old father would install. I called Leela. Straight to voicemail. Then I heard it. A faint pounding from inside. Slow. Weak. Desperate. "Dad." I yelled. Silence. Then another knock. Softer. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed a patio chair and smashed the back window. Glass exploded inward. I climbed through, cutting my palm in the process. The house smelled wrong, stale, closed off, like no one had opened a window in weeks. "Dad," I shouted again. The pounding grew louder. It was coming from the basement door. There was a padlock on it. A padlock. My hands shook so violently I could barely dial 911. While I waited, I grabbed a hammer from the garage and smashed the lock. The door creaked open. He was sitting on the floor, unshaven, pale, wrapped in a blanket, and chained. Not brutally beaten, not bloody, but restrained, like an inconvenience. His eyes met mine, and the look wasn't confusion. It was shame. "Caleb," he whispered, "you weren't supposed to come home." That sentence didn't just break my heart. It ignited something darker. Someone had locked my father in his own house, and I already knew who had the keys. Sometimes betrayal doesn't announce itself with violence. It whispers through locked doors and stolen control. And as I stared at my father's trembling hands, I realized the hurricane hadn't turned back. It had guided me home. I will never forget the sound of that chain scraping against concrete as I rushed to him. "Who did this?" I asked, dropping to my knees. He didn't answer right away. He couldn't. His hands were trembling so badly I had to steady them myself. The cuffs weren't tight enough to cut skin, but they were deliberate, measured, controlled. This wasn't panic. This was planning. "Dad," I said again, softer now, "tell me." He looked older than 72. Smaller, like someone had folded him inward. "It was temporary," he whispered. "Leela said it was for my safety." For my safety. I stood up so fast the room spun. Safety from what? His silence was louder than the storm that never came. The paramedics arrived minutes later. They checked his vitals. Dehydrated. Malnourished. No visible injuries. One of them looked at me in a way that said everything. This isn't normal. As they helped him upstairs, I scanned the basement. A cot. A small folding table. A water jug. A bucket. This wasn't a kidnapping. This was containment. Upstairs, I noticed more changes. The framed photos of Mom were gone. Dad's office door was locked. His filing cabinet missing. When I opened the kitchen drawer where he kept spare keys and documents, it was empty. Leela didn't answer my calls, but she did text. "Why are you home?" Not "Is Dad okay?" Not "What happened?" Just that. "Why are you home?" I stared at the screen, something inside me rearranging itself. The last 6 months replayed in my mind. Leela insisting I focus on expanding my logistics company. Leela volunteering to handle Dad's finances. Leela discouraging visits because travel stresses him. I had believed her, because she was my sister. At the hospital, Dad finally spoke more clearly. "She said I was getting forgetful," he murmured. "Said a doctor agreed." "What doctor?" He hesitated. "I never saw one." My stomach dropped. "Did you sign anything?" I asked. His eyes shifted away. "I thought it was for storm insurance," he said quietly. "Storm insurance." Outside, the sky was clear, blue, almost mocking. I checked the county property records from my phone while sitting beside his hospital bed. The house had been transferred 2 weeks ago to Leela. My chest tightened. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about confusion. This was about control. And she thought the hurricane bought her enough time to finish it. She didn't expect me home early. She didn't expect a witness. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's signed in ink while you're told it's protection. And as I watched my father sleep under hospital lights, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. Because if Leela thought I was just the distracted older brother, she was about to learn the difference between anger and strategy. The first rule of war is simple. Never let your enemy know you've seen the battlefield. So I didn't call Leela back. Instead, I texted her. Flight got canceled again. Storm delays. I'll stay in Houston a few more days. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Okay, keep me a panic. No urgency. No mention of Dad. That told me everything. I left the hospital and drove to a hotel across town under a different name. Not because I was paranoid, because I was learning. If Leela had managed to transfer the house, she had paperwork, lawyers, documentation. That kind of theft doesn't happen in isolation. I called a private attorney I'd worked with years ago during a contract dispute. His name was Marcus Hale. Careful, quiet, expensive.
I need discretion, I told him. You usually do, he replied.
I explained just enough. Possible coercion, fraud, elder exploitation, illegal transfer of property. He didn't react emotionally. He just said, do not confront her. If she manipulated him once, she'll adapt. Exactly what I was thinking. That night I went back to the house while Leela was at work. I knew her schedule from social media. Yoga posts at 6 p.m. Smoothie pictures at 7. I entered through the broken window I'd covered with plastic earlier. This time, I wasn't a panicked son. I was collecting evidence. Dad's office door wasn't just locked. It had been replaced. Cheap wood. Rushed installation. Inside, the desk drawers were empty. But she missed something. The shredder bin. She had shredded copies of documents. Not cross-cut, just strip-cut. Sloppy. I took the entire bag. Upstairs, I noticed a folder tucked behind cookbooks in the pantry. Leela always hid things in obvious places, believing no one looked twice. It contained notarized forms. Power of attorney. Effective immediately. Signed by my father. Dated 3 days before he was chained in the basement. My hands went cold. I photographed everything and sent copies to Marcus. He called me 10 minutes later. This signature doesn't look natural, he said. The pressure pattern is inconsistent. Forgery or forced signing. Either way, illegal. I should have felt rage. Instead, I felt clarity. This wasn't a sister spiraling. This was calculated displacement. Remove Dad, transfer assets, control the estate before his health declined, and keep me away long enough to make it irreversible. But she underestimated one thing. I run a logistics empire built on timing and leverage. If she wanted paperwork warfare, I would give her something far worse. Because betrayal inside a family isn't just theft. It's humiliation disguised as protection. And I wasn't going to shout. I was going to dismantle her piece by piece. The hurricane didn't destroy our home, but it revealed who already had. And now that I had proof in my hands, the real storm was about to begin. Revenge isn't loud. It's patient. The morning after I found the forged documents, I walked into Leela's favorite coffee shop and sat where she could see me the second she walked in. She froze. Just for half a second. Then the smile appeared. Smooth. Practiced. Caleb, I thought you were in Houston.
Flight changed,
I said calmly. Storm cleared. I watched her eyes carefully, not her words, her eyes. They discharged Dad, she asked lightly, stirring her coffee. Still at the hospital, I replied. Dehydration. She didn't flinch. I told you he's been confused lately. There it was again. The narrative. I leaned back, confused enough to sign over the house. Her spoon stopped moving. Silence. Then a soft laugh. He wanted things simplified. You're never around. That hit exactly where she intended. I ignored it. You got power of attorney 3 days before he ended up chained in the basement. She blinked slowly. He asked for supervision during the hurricane. He panics. Does he panic with padlocks too? For a moment the mask slipped, not guilt, annoyance. You're overreacting, she said quietly. I've been taking care of him for months while you played CEO. That was the pivot. Make me the villain. Make herself the martyr. I nodded as if considering it. You're right. I should have been more involved. Her shoulders relaxed. That was mistake number 1. Because agreement disarms the guilty. I'm actually glad you handled things, I continued. Must have been stressful. She searched my face for sarcasm. Found none. I did what had to be done, she said. What had to be done? I repeated. I didn't accuse her again. I didn't threaten. I didn't even mention the documents. Instead, I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed bank statements. Her personal account. Large transfers. From Dad's retirement fund. Her smile faded. Where did you get that? she whispered. I manage logistics, I said evenly. Tracing movement is what I do. Her jaw tightened. Dad approved those. Good, I said. Then you won't mind if we verify that with a forensic auditor. That's when fear finally appeared. Small, sharp, real. You're not thinking clearly, she snapped. No, I said quietly. I'm thinking very clearly. Because here's what she didn't know. Marcus had already filed an emergency petition to suspend the power of attorney. By the time she finished her latta, the legal freeze would begin, and every dollar she moved would become evidence. Betrayal thrives in secrecy. But exposure suffocates it. She thought chaining him downstairs made her powerful. She forgot something. Locks only work when no one thinks to break them. The court order hit her inbox at 2:17 p.m. I know the exact time because I was sitting across from her in Dad's living room when her phone buzzed. She read it once, then again. Color drained from her face. What did you do? She asked, her voice barely controlled. Protected him, I said. The emergency petition had been approved faster than expected. Temporary suspension of her power of attorney. Immediate freeze on asset transfers. Mandatory financial review. She stood up abruptly. You went behind my back.
I almost laughed. You locked Dad in a basement. It wasn't like that,
she snapped. He was wandering at night, forgetting the stove. I was keeping him safe, with a padlock. Her silence was the closest thing to confession I'd get. She began pacing. You don't understand the pressure. Medical pairs. The storm insurance wasn't enough. So you transferred the deed.
It was strategic, she shot back.
If something happened to him, probate would have dragged on for months. I was simplifying things. For yourself. Her eyes hardened. You've always thought you were smarter. That was the core of it. Not money, not safety.
Control. I don't need to be smarter, I said quiet. I just need to be honest.
She grabbed her purse. You're making a mistake. No, I replied. You did. She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. But anger is reactive. Strategy is patient. By evening, the forensic accountant Marcus recommended had already begun reconstructing the shredded documents. Cut shredders are easy to reverse when you know how. And what we found was worse than I expected. Loan applications in Dad's name. Backdated. Approved. Money routed into a shell LLC owned by Leela. She hadn't just moved existing funds. She leveraged his identity. That's not simplification. That's exploitation. When I visited Dad at the hospital that night, I didn't tell him everything. Just enough. She was trying to protect the house, I said gently. He closed his eyes. I trusted her, he whispered. That broke me more than the chains had. Trust is currency inside a family, and she had spent it recklessly. But this was no longer just about reclaiming property. It was about restoring dignity, because humiliation leaves scars deeper than theft. And Leela was about to realize something terrifying. The more she fought to keep control, the more evidence she created against herself. And tomorrow morning, I was going to offer her one final choice. By morning, I had everything laid out on the dining table like pieces of a surgical procedure. Loan documents, bank transfers, reconstructed shredded contracts, the emergency court order, and one final document Marcus drafted at 3 a.m., a voluntary confession agreement. Leela arrived just after 10. She didn't knock. She walked in like she still owned the place. You froze my accounts, she said immediately. I froze Dad's, I corrected. Yours are under review. Her composure was thinner today. No yoga glow, no rehearsed calm. You're ruining my life? She whispered. No, I said evenly. I'm stopping you from ruining his. She glanced at the papers spread across the table. Her eyes moved quickly, calculating, assessing damage. You won't win this in court, she said. He signed everything. I slid the reconstructed loan application toward her. This signature was traced. Her jaw tightened. And this LLC, I continued, registered under your middle name. Why hide it? Silence. When she spoke again, her voice cracked slightly. I was drowning. That was new. Medical bills, credit cards. The studio failed. I couldn't tell Dad. He'd panic. So you panicked for him. I was going to fix it, she snapped. Flip the house later. Repay everything. No one would have known. That's the thing about rationalization. It always sounds reasonable to the person doing it. I pushed the final document toward her. What's this? She asked. An option. She scanned it. Voluntary admission of financial misconduct. Agreement to reverse property transfer. Repayment plan monitored by the court. In exchange, I would recommend reduced charges. Her eyes shot up. Charges.
Yes.
You'd send your own sister to jail. I'd send anyone who chained our father in a basement. The words hung heavy between us. For the first time, she looked small, not evil, desperate. But desperation doesn't excuse betrayal. You have until tonight, I said quietly. After that, the district attorney gets everything. She stared at me, searching for hesitation. She found none, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about boundaries. Family doesn't mean immunity. Trust doesn't mean ownership. And love doesn't mean surrendering your dignity. She picked up the pen. Her hand trembled, but she didn't sign. Not yet. Instead, she looked at me and said something I didn't expect. You think you know the whole story. And in that moment, for the first time since the hurricane turned back, I wondered if I didn't. You think you know the whole story. The way she said it wasn't defensive. It was wounded. I didn't blink. Then tell me. She sat down slowly, the pen still in her hand. You were gone, Caleb. Not just 6 months. Years. Her voice wasn't loud anymore. It was tired. Dad didn't just start forgetting things. He's been declining for almost a year. That doesn't justify. I didn't say it did. She cut in. But you need context. I folded my arms. Go on. She swallowed. He was scammed last fall. Online investment garbage. Lost almost 200,000. The number hit me harder than I expected. I covered it, she continued. I used my savings. Took loans. I thought I could rebuild quietly. I stared at her. Dad never told me. You could have called me, I said. You were closing your Chicago expansion. She shot back. Every time I tried to talk about something serious, you said, handle it, Leela. I trust you. That stung, because it was true. Trust without oversight. Delegation without involvement. She looked down at the documents. When the hurricane warnings started, he got paranoid. Thought looters were coming. He insisted on sleeping downstairs. I locked the door at night because he tried to wander outside twice. With a chain. My voice sharpened. Her eyes filled, but she held them steady. The chain was after he tried to leave while I was at work. I couldn't afford full-time care. I made a terrible choice. I know that. Silence swallowed the room. I transferred the house because the scam drained most of his liquid assets, she said quietly. If he was declared incompetent, the state could have forced a sale to cover debts. I thought moving it would protect it. Protect it. The word echoed differently now. Not pure greed. Fear. Stupid, reckless fear. Then why the shell company? I asked. Her face hardened slightly. Because I was trying to pay off the loans before you noticed the missing funds. There it was. Not a mastermind. A drowning woman stacking lies on top of panic. I never meant to hurt him, she whispered, or you. Intent doesn't erase damage, but damage doesn't always come from hatred. Sometimes it comes from arrogance disguised as sacrifice. I looked at the confession agreement again. This wasn't a clean villain story. This was negligence, pride, and secrecy colliding. You should have told me, I said finally. I know. And for the first time, the storm inside me shifted. Because revenge feels simple when the enemy is cruel. It feels complicated when they're broken. But complicated doesn't mean consequence-free. I picked up the pen. Now the choice wasn't just hers. It was mine.